Well, welcome to another episode of Dad's Old Car. First up, there's a couple of things. First of all, the Kumeu Hot Rod Show is coming up soon, and there's some information during the show about that. And also there's an event called Wheels at Wairarapa. So if you're down in the Wairarapa during this event, might be a good time to pop in. If it's got wheels, it'll be there. But first up is my mate Russell talking about his first car and a car he bought, a baby Austin, to tow his yacht. Yeah, right. Okay, let's join Russell. With me is Russell, and Russell, welcome to our little show. And I understand your father's car was a Vanguard, about a 1949, 1950. You've got a photograph of it here.
Correct, yeah.
And who's that standing next to it?
That's Mum standing next to it.
And you sort of, how many in your family went away in that?
We lived on a farm at the time, and there were 6 kids. So
oh, really?
We did tow a caravan with it. That's the caravan in the background. And we had a holiday in Rotorua, which was not very successful.
Well, you couldn't all get in it? Or did you get a flat tyre?
Yeah, we had some problems with the caravan particularly. It was very, very cold. And but however, it was a holiday and we did get away, yeah.
Right. So there's 4 kids in the back and 1 kid in the front?
In those days we squeezed in, yeah.
All in the back, 6 kids?
No. We just squeezed in wherever we could. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So some sitting slightly forward.
We didn't have to worry about seatbelts and all that nonsense in those days.
So a trip to Rotorua was how far and how long?
That was from Waiuku, was quite a long venture in those days.
Sure. And did he stop along the way for a cup of tea or anything like that?
No, we tended to keep going where we could. Okay. What was interesting, we got to Rotorua and we saw another car belonged to somebody in Waiuku. We knew who it belonged to, and that's what you used to do in those days. And we'd go back and say, hey, you in Rotorua.
Yeah, I seem to remember back in that time you sort of give a finger to everybody, sort of.
That's right.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, all the roads fine where we've just come from, that sort of signal.
Yep. Yeah. Living in the country, we always wave to everybody anyway. So I still do.
Do you know why your father chose the Vanguard? Just because?
No idea at all. I was quite young at the time.
Right.
But he found it very reliable. He had a Ferguson tractor, same engine.
Oh, yes,
and he later on bought another Vanguard, a later model, totally different shape, of course. And,
right.
It was a lot better car too, to be honest.
You know, when the 90-mile beach fishing competition was on the beach and they had this Brawn Prix start, and there were about 5 Vanguards right in the front. And the guy went forward, and everybody took off together, and the Land Rovers come along behind to sort of tow everybody as they go along. But I just remember these 5 Vanguards all in a row.
Wow,
took off together. It's amazing, yeah. So was the dust, the noise and all the rest of it, because it would have been dusty roads back then.
Yeah, it was all gravel road. We used to walk from school up the gravel road and spent all our time throwing stones at birds or whatever we could do. We had to be amused. We went from there to the city, and that was interesting because the townies were funny people. They played this game with 3 sticks stuck in the ground.
Oh, right.
And they didn't know how to throw properly. They kept their arms stiff. And I go up there and
that's wrong.
I had a real problem. I decided to learn to bowl. I couldn't stop bending my arm. I spent hours. I became quite a good bowler in the end.
Yeah, good on you. Yeah. And you've got this next photograph here. It looks like it's a MG something or other.
That was an old MG TF I bought. It had Morris 8 hydraulic brakes on it. It had the wrong size wheels on the back. No top on it, so when it was raining I would drive and then stop, pull the handbrake on, leap out with the seat and rush to the nearest shelter.
Seat and all.
So I had it for only a couple of years. It was very inconvenient.
So is this your first car?
That was my second car. First car was an Austin 7, yeah.
Austin 7, and is that it over there?
It was the 36 Austin 7, and here we are. He was a little beauty. I put a tow bar on the back. I used to tow my 15-foot fin class, Olympic class yacht behind it. The yacht was worth more than the car, I think.
Well, that just looks hard case, that.
Incidentally, our Commodore of our club was ex-Second World War motorbike rider, and he forgot after the war that you weren't supposed to have your foot down all the time. He had a V8 car. and I was a bit slow going up the hill with 4 big boys in this. We were going off to get a pie at lunchtime. So Bert came up, put his bump on the back of my car in second gear, and then put his foot down. I wondered what had happened to my car. It suddenly took off.
Well, but getting 4 guys in that, I mean, you're not small. I remember I got 4 guys my size into a little Fiat Bambina, and that would have been not much bigger inside than a Fiat Bambina. And then you've got your boat on behind with the tow bar, and did it go up hills okay?
No, a lot of changing down.
And so could you crank that to get it going?
No. She had a very modern starter. Yeah, all good. All mod cons. Yep.
And if the battery was flat, you could give it a bit of a push.
Definitely. That happened on the odd occasion. Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. One up on the modern cars there.
So as we're going through your life, I'll just see what we got here. We've got another MG.
That was the car that we went away for after we got married.
Oh really?
And I had no money. I only owned half that car because I got on overseas funds. And my auntie said I could have a batch in Rotorua as long as we brought the rubbish bin back, and that's it sitting there. It felt quite strange coming back with this big rubbish bin sticking in the back of the car. But we got a week's holiday in Rotorua, so that was nice.
What year is that?
That's going back 1968.
Oh, okay. And it was brand new then?
Yes, I imported it from Canada.
Oh, okay.
So I owned this one in Canada. That was a wonderful car. That was the Mark II.
Yep.
I bought this one, the Mark III, and it wasn't up to scratch. That was a far better car. I raced that one.
Really?
Hill climbs, there we are, racing in a hill climb. Raced it around Gymkhana tracks for the local car club.
Wow.
Wonderful car. And I sold it for more than I paid for it. Very unusual in Canada.
Did you win?
I did. I won quite a few prizes, yes. The one race I really wanted to win was across a paddock. It was the last run, and I came up with a cunning idea that I would go over the hill full speed. Nobody else did. I wasn't going to slow down, round the pin, and do a big drift right round and up the finish. And it was going to be a winner. It was, except I'd misjudged the top of the hill slightly, and when I rode over the top with the wheels off the ground, there was the pin right between the headlights. Unfortunately, by the time they took 30 seconds off my time, I didn't make it. But I would have won otherwise, but it was a good idea.
Yeah, great. So is this you here?
That was me, yeah.
Oh, you're a good-looking fella. You must have found him a good-looking fella. Yeah, awesome. Oh, and you got the Kiwi badge on the front.
Yes, we had Kiwis all over it, yeah.
Yeah, good on you. Interesting, very interesting. Anyway.
Yeah, just an aside to that, we went down to America with another car with Kiwis all over it, and we're in San Diego having breakfast, and an American guy walked in. He'd seen our car outside. He said, "You guys from New Zealand?" We said, "Yeah." "I was in the Battle of Auckland." And walked out. To this day, I assumed he lost, but anyway.
The Battle of Auckland. Well, I don't think we've had that yet. Good on you. Anyway, Russell, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
There you go, folks. Russell. When I was a boy, 1957, a lot of taxis were these cars, and Mum ordered one once, and we were waiting, and one of these come round the end of the street. We lived in a little cul-de-sac, turned up outside our place, tooted its horn, and we all went, wow, we're going to town in that. And look at it, absolutely beautiful. And what I remember about these things is the fins at the back. And the Americans, they love fins. And I think this is probably 1957, 58. But if you look at this and what the English were building in 1957, 58, you'd think, oh, okay. So the Americans, they certainly sort of went all out when they built a car. I'm not quite sure how long this is. It's got to be sort of 6 meters long. It's got a boot you can sleep in. It's got a great big huge V8 that we'll look at in a minute under there. But one thing about this thing is the hubcaps. You just got to take a look at those hubcaps, and somebody somewhere's gone to the trouble of making them. Isn't that amazing? Then we come to the driving station and the pull-out handles. Some of them you push a button, some of them you lift up, some of them you sort of pushed in, but these pull out. And like all cars of this area, they all got this little piece here that means you can get your legs in underneath without skinning them or bumping your knee or something like that. But just looking in here, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dials and a great big long wide speedometer. You can see how fast you're going. It's got the old push button radios, and they were fun. Just sort of programmed it by pushing a button. Nothing's automatic these days, but it's got a 3-speed on the tree, 3 on the tree, so you pull it back for first, up for second, down for third, and back towards you and up is reverse. Very simple. So it's right-hand drive. Apparently it came factory in New Zealand. Todd Motors down in Wellington put these things together. They arrived in a box and they unpacked it all and built it all, and out the door it went and people enjoyed them. So I'll just jump in here and come have a look at this. I've seen them, enjoyed looking at them, but I've never actually sat behind the wheel. So this is an absolute first time for everything. But as I was saying, we've got a temperature gauge, oil pressure, a clock, fuel gauge, and an amp meter, all in a whole string of gauges. And then there's a great big huge speedo there with how far it's got, and it says it's gone 75,000 k, but who knows how many, it's actually miles, how many miles it's gone. But these things used to go to 100,000 miles. 100,000 miles, and the cars these days, they reckon they're stuff when they've done 100,000 k. So they've got another 60,000 k to go to get to the 100,000 mile mark. But the other thing about these things is the mirror was sort of on the dashboard rather than up here, which sometimes you can see, sometimes you can't. On my 1951 Studebaker, I had the mirror was there, and it was always just a little bit difficult to see what was coming behind, so I actually lifted it a wee bit so I could see that better. But the controls, everything's where it should be, and as I said before, sitting in this thing is like, you've got a football field in front of you. Yeah, wrap round windscreens. I don't know how hard they are to make, a great big windscreen like that, but anyway, it's good to be able to sit beside one of these things and enjoy it. And sitting in the back there, there's a ton of room, and it's got this little door lock here. So window winder, up and down, the door handle, and then this is just a little to lock the door. And at the back of this, of course, we've got these 2 enormous fins. And in as I said, probably around about 56 to 60 fins were in. They were the great thing. And I saw a car here at the Kumiu car show that's actually got another fin stuck up on top of the original fin. So they've got a fin on a fin. But just have a look at this enormous boot. There's enough room in there to put all sorts of things, including yourself. And Colin, the owner of this car, said one of the Kumiu shows he came to, he decided he was going to stay overnight, so he just stretched out in here and stayed the night, got up in the morning and carried on. But a huge boot space. And like a lot of these cars, got fantastic logos, chrome everywhere, and amazing. Let's have a look at the other end, at the engine. So looking in here, we've got a 277 V8. Relatively small, I suppose, but that's what's in it, and I guess that's what came with it back in the day. Plenty of it, and you can see the ground. And if you've got one of these that was 6 cylinders, he was telling me they could actually sit on top of the engine, sitting in there, fixing things. It was amazing. But again, it's just a massive engine bay. Amazing. Next up is my good friend Roger Mahan, and Roger has been buying cars since he was about 15. And Roger has a great big huge museum full of all the things that he's collected over the years. So I have a chat to Roger about a couple of the first cars that he ever bought. And as I said, he was 15 when he did that. So let's have a chat to Roger. With me is the very famous Roger Mahan, and welcome to our show again, Roger. Lovely to have you on board. And what we're sitting on is a 100-year-old car, and just before we start, Roger, a friend of mine's mother turned 100,
Yes.
and she was, is there anybody who's got a 100-year-old car that I could go to my party in? And my friend's got a 1922 T, like this one, and he turned up, took her to the party, and she was absolutely thrilled to be going to on her 100th birthday in a 100-year-old car, and it was just marvellous. So 100 years, Roger. How old were you when you got this?
I was only 15-year-old. I had an old Clement Bayard, which I partly restored, but I was told I wouldn't get a warrant for it, so
right.
That's when I went and bought the Model T, which was a real flying machine.
So at 15, did you have enough money to?
Actually, my mother was very generous. She thought if it bought me a motor car, it might keep me away from girls.
Oh.
And I'd scrounge. I had the money myself because I used to do work for the farms next door, and I used to pluck dead sheep for the wool and whatnot.
Oh, okay.
So I got a nest egg stuck away.
Good on you.
Yeah.
At 15.
Yes.
What did your father have?
He had at that stage he had a DeSoto car, and it was quite a rare one. It was a two-speed manual with fluid drive.
Really?
And it was the flashiest car in the district at the time, and they were very proud of it.
Yeah. And when did the Hudson Terraplane?
Oh yes, well that replaced the Hudson Terraplane. There's a massive change then.
Oh right,
Yes.
right. Wow.
Yeah.
So the fluid drive. I used to drive an ARA bus, and it had something called a pre-selector that you
Yes.
put it in first gear, and it didn't go anywhere until you hit the clutch. Then you moved it to second, drive along at first. When you're ready to change, you just hit the clutch, and then into third. Is it something like that?
Yes. Well, this one you pre-selected what gear you wanted to go in, and then you put the foot on the accelerator to give a few revs, and away it went.
Oh, okay.
And once it got up to a certain speed, there was an interlock, and which made it a direct drive.
So we're going to have a look at the buggies. What we'll do, folks, we've got these two buggies just sitting over there. We'll go and have a look. Is that all right, Roger?
Good on you, Bill.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Roger, what year is this?
1908.
1908. So that's not far from 1898. That's roughly when they started to make engines and put them into buggies.
Well, that was a very busy period, and then so many firms started off, and they didn't last long. They went broke, and so only the stronger ones remained.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So in 1900, and then have come through to about 1915, they tried electric cars. I think Studebaker were making electric cars in 1902. Others were making electric cars, and we all think electric cars are something new. No. And then the steam. Of course, steam already existed, so they were making steam vehicles as well. The Stanley steamer sort of springs to mind. They just specialised in steam. And what we've sort of spoken to people along the way, it took maybe half an hour to get the steam car going, as opposed to I think that's what killed the steam is Ford and his Tin Lizzie.
Yes.
Just give it a crank, away it goes.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is an International. And so when did International sort of start there? Around about this time with this vehicle, perhaps?
Yes, this was the first of their models. They continued after this one was built, but they lowered them closer to the ground, and they altered the bodywork quite considerably.
Yeah, so there's another one next door which seems to have a bit of a bonnet to it. Is that later than this one?
Yes, it is a later one. Yes, the engine is still mounted underneath, but it gives you the appearance that there's motor in there, but there's not.
So when you bought this car, you're 15 years old.
Yes.
Where did you get it?
I got it from over at Cockapoo Station, which belongs to the Hargraves, and the car was actually that was its last motoring place, and they had taken the wheel, 2 sets of the wheels were under a gig, and the motor was pulled out and just laying there.
Oh, okay.
It was very, very derelict.
So when you got it, you'd have to put it all back together again?
Yes, I did.
And so this was a project for you?
That's right, it was, sure was. And but I was very lucky in picking up the remains of another one down Central Otago.
Okay.
So with 2 lots of bits and pieces, I didn't have any problem in getting the motor or completing the whole car.
All right. So when you finished, you went, yoo-hoo!
Oh yes, we had a lot of fun going too, because you forgot to sort your gears out, and we didn't know where the gears were. We thought we were going sometimes forwards and sometimes we were going backwards. So there was.
Bit of trial and error going.
That's right, but to us young fellas, it is a lot of fun too.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Yeah. So you've got a little black box on the floor here with them look like spark plugs coming off the other side. What does that do?
We've got 4 coils in there.
Oh yeah.
And they make the spark plug for the motor.
So the motor's nowhere near the spark plugs.
No, and we only have 2 coils in there.
Yep.
A coil for each cylinder.
Right. Oh, right. And there's 2 levers on the floor. The first one down here.
First one is the brake.
Yep.
And also too, if you put the and this one here is your holding brake.
Right. Oh, okay. Yep. You've got a ratchet on it.
Yes. Yeah. You have a little, and that goes down and clicks in.
Yep. And there's a couple of other little. That's just something to put your heel on.
No, this is the accelerator here.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bill. That's the accelerator.
Yep.
And this one here is for a cutout on the back, which puts the exhaust pipe straight out, so it goes pop pop. And if you get a mob of sheep of that, very handy.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So you've got 2 levers on the steering wheel,
right.
or under it.
One's for speed, engine speed.
Yep.
And the other one is for the advanced retard of the spark.
Right. So that didn't go away for a long time.
No, it didn't. It stayed with a lot of cars.
Yeah. And so these days, that's all automatic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cars just takes care of itself.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So you knew nothing about this, so you had to sort of figure it all out for yourself.
Oh yes, but it's amazing how quickly you learn when you're keen.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yes,
yeah. You're passionate about something, and the world's your oyster.
Yes.
Over there's a Dirac, and what amazed me about that car is there's a little opening at the back where you climb into the back and then you shut it behind you.
Yes.
So you're separate from the people in the front, which is, that's for the era, I think that's just amazing.
That one did great service. It belonged to the Mount Cook company, the Wigleys, and they used to take their tourists up to the Hermitage in Mount Cook. And they used to go down to Queenstown in it.
Way.
But they were a very rugged car, the Derricks. They were a French car.
Yep.
But they went very, very well.
Right.
But it appeared to most of us that after the First World War, the French lost it, and others came into the market.
Wow. Well, Roger,
Yep.
Thank you very, very much for having us. If you're down Geraldine way, Roger's got this magnificent heritage collection here for you to come and have a look at. There's the contacts for somebody to get hold of to make an appointment to come here and have a look. And I really, really recommend it. And Roger, you've done a fabulous job setting it all out like it is. Wonderful. You have toilets and that sort of
yes,
thing? Yep.
Yes.
So everybody's taken care of. So if you come, just tell them you saw this on Bill Hohepper's Dad's Old Car Show, and I'm sure they'll look after you.
We certainly will. We enjoy having people because you learn so much from different people,
Yeah. One of our,
especially the older ones.
just to finish, one of our people, we came here with our old truck tour.
Yes.
And Kevin Corboy was the man, and he walked in here and he looked around and he said, Bill, I've just died and gone to heaven. Good on you.
Yeah. Yes.
With me is Tony, and Tony, this is yours.
Yep.
And what year is it?
1927. In fact, it's just had its 95th birthday on the 13th, 4 days ago.
So that's something like
95. It was
95,
first registered in Dunedin, 13th of April 1927. Yeah, not to our family, to a senior man down there.
Sure.
So my dad was able to buy it 18 years later. He needed a car for his family and high country run and work and so forth. And I can explain that. I know the exact day my dad brought that car, what he paid for it and everything. As it turned out, when he got back to Kurau from Waimate in this,
Yeah.
his mother-in-law sent him up to the cottage hospital. Oh, you better get up to the hospital, your wife's up there, just delivered you a son. Me.
You.
That's how I know how long I've been in Studebaker's, Bill. Absolutely, it's easy, isn't it?
That's absolutely
And of course,
easy.
it was the family car, and it was the sheep runs, farm vehicle. So we've been together from exactly the same afternoon right through. So it was my daily driver when I was just turned 16, 17, 18. Drove up to Nelson all over the show in a great old car. But then I got the opportunity to put it away on the farm in a spare garage for 20 years. And then they sold the sheep run, and I went down and got it on a trailer and brought it up to Matawaika where I live. So I got it absolutely pulled to 1,000 pieces, as you can imagine, for a complete restoration.
Yes.
Which it got.
What's the engine in it?
Yeah, it's got a 6-cylinder with our old flat tops,
Yeah, yeah.
spark plug sticking out the top,
Yep.
and it's 4 litre,
Wow.
whatever that is. And
Yeah, pretty powerful.
It cruises. No, it pulls well. It cruises down the flat road at Speedo tells me 44 mile an hour. It's actually 50 mile an hour because I had one of the larks following me, and he said, and I asked him, and he said, no, we're sitting on 50 mile an hour. And I said, are you sure? And he said, yeah. Pulled his phone out, the aircraft engineer, and I've got this bizzo. So it cruises at that, but I drive it probably at 70 and 75 k's. And no one minds, I pull over if I'm holding up traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good on you, Tony.